This week, we're still going to be continuing our study of back control. However, we're going to be looking at the other half of back control, that being how to escape from back control. And in many ways, this is even more important than getting onto the back and finishing people and, all this sort of fun stuff. This is actually more important in the long run because chances are in your jiu-jitsu career, regardless of how long it may be, whether it's a week or whether it's 15 years, whatever, there's probably going to be somebody on your back at some point in jiu-jitsu. So we have to understand how to defend and how to get somebody off of our back. So our concept for back control last week was when we were on the back, and that was maintaining our chest to spine connection. Thankfully, escaping the back mount is essentially the opposite. We're going to be looking to break the chest to spine connection. Okay? However, it's easier said than done, and when we talk about utilizing our natural abilities such as strength, flexibility, this sort of stuff, it can be easier for some than others. If I'm way bigger and way stronger than my opponent, it's going to be pretty easy for me to just kind of sling them off my back or whatever it may be, or if I'm very flexible, just kind of weasel my way out. But we don't want to rely on techniques that only work against one type of person. We want to rely on a technique that works on anybody, regardless of size, regardless of experience, okay? Because we're not planning to deal with someone who has no idea what they're doing. We're planning to deal with experienced opponents. So first, let's just take a look at the back mount and kind of understand the anatomy of this position. When there is somebody on my back, there's two sides that we can go to. We can go to the overhook side, or we can go to the underhook side. As you all noticed in that warm-up drill, you're never just going to sit here, okay? Because we're always going to be moving in jiu-jitsu. So if I had the preference, I'm going to try to get to the underhook side for two reasons. Number one, it's going to be slightly easier to do our escape, our primary escape that we're going to look at for tonight. But number two, it's going to help me prevent the rear naked choke. So before we even look at the escape, guys, let's talk about our rear naked choke. This is our primary attack from the back mount. And for the rear naked choke, my opponent's going to be using that overhook to attack my neck and start choking. So I want to make sure that before I do anything, I have to keep my neck safe. So to do that, we're going to create a frame with our opposite hand of the overhook. So his right arm is over my shoulder. I'm going to take my left hand using a C grip to create a frame. And I like to use my elbow inside my knee here to reinforce that frame. This is going to prevent him from getting to the shoulder control, which is what we worked on Thursday of last week. However, in addition to this frame, I'm going to be using a hook. And I want to make sure I'm not using a thumb because this is a pull grip. The thumb is a push grip, so I'm trying to pull this arm away from me. So again, one hand framing on the wrist, the other hand hooking on the wrist. And we're always trying to control the end of the lever. I don't want to control high up near the elbow because I'm not getting enough control on this lever as I would like. So I'm always going to control the end of the lever. Now my elbows should be tucked in, again, allowing me to create frames on the inside of his knees. So before I actually start this escape, this needs to just be automatic. The second somebody is on my back, I immediately grab that arm. Okay? If I do any other type of escapes and I start reaching for things, I'm just giving him an opening to start attacking my neck. So this is it's not really a technique, but this is just something we automatically need to do if somebody's on our back, immediately grab that arm. Now, we're going to go ahead and get to the underhook side today in order to escape. And thankfully, the concept for escaping is very simple. I'm going to use the mat to scrape him off of my back. So it's like there's gum on the bottom of my shoe and I'm going to scrape it off on the curb. I'm going to use the mat to scrape him off of my back. So I'm going to rotate a little bit, kind of like 45, so you guys can see a little bit more clearly what we're doing here. So before I'm going to get to that side, I don't want him to control the side we go to. Because if Coach Seth had the choice, he could take me to either side he wanted to and start attacking. So to help give me a little bit more advantage in this realm, I'm going to start off by pulling my feet close to my bottom, and I'm going to bridge into my opponent, essentially laying on him. And as I do this bridge, I'm looking to create a frame with my head right underneath his chin. Now, this is going to start breaking his posture, making it more difficult for him to generate the force to pull me over to the side of his choice. As soon as I do this, I'm going to look to get my head and my shoulders down to the mat. I'm looking to get my right shoulder free. If I can get this shoulder out from underneath his arm, I've essentially escaped the back. Everything else is going to be pretty easy. Notice how my hips and my bottom are still up in the sky because my feet are still planted on the floor. This is gonna allow me to be able to rotate more easily in between his legs. If my hips are on the ground, it's difficult for me to rotate, and he's gonna be able to maintain better lever control with these hooks. So I wanna maintain high hips, and I'm actually putting most of my weight into my shoulders. The reason I'm doing this is I'm trying to control this lever to his shoulder, his arm on this side. I'm really trying to lay heavy on that arm, and again, I'm still holding on to this top arm here. Now, again, I'm gonna scrape my shoulders along the mat to scrape him off of me. As I do this though, I'm gonna create a frame on this top leg. And the reason I'm creating this frame here is to prevent Coach Seth to do something called coming up on top. And coming up on top is where he literally comes up on top of my body, and he gets from the back mount, which is a really good position, to another advantageous position. In this case, it could have been the mount. So I'm always looking to, if we scoot forward a little bit, I'm always looking to try to get to a more neutral position, okay? And my opponent is gonna know when he's lost, right? We talk about this a lot. Know when you need to fold him. As soon as he notices that my back is on the mat, it would behoove him to try to come up on top and stay on top of me, okay? So this is actually gonna be a drill for the back person as well. We're gonna be learning how to come up on top, so that way we can maintain top control. So again, we're grabbing this arm, I bridge back into him, head and shoulders go to the mat. So I'm gonna create this frame. I can grab onto the pants. This is a really strong frame grip in the gi. Otherwise, I'm just gonna hold my arm out, creating a frame on the knee. As I start scraping him off of me, scraping, I'm looking to start extending this leg out, making this hook much less effective. Now, as soon as I'm here, my partner is going to try to come up on top of me. Now, real quick, I should mention it's unrealistic for me to just kind of magically pop up on top of him like this. While that would be perfect and that would be such a wonderful back mount escape, it's too unrealistic. When you're actually going against someone who knows what they're doing, they're not simply gonna lay there and allow you to come up and lay on top of them like this. So we can practice that, but right now I wanna show you what the more realistic reaction is gonna be, that being your opponent trying to come up on top. So once I'm here, notice he's trying to come up on top of me. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna start to feed this leg in between our knees. And as Coach Seth finishes and comes up on top, I end up in a half guard position. A lot of back mount escapes, you're gonna end up in some type of half guard, either that or butterfly. And I'll show both of those options right now. Now, I want this to be clear, guys. As soon as my back is on the ground, you're done. You've escaped the back mount, okay? So if you forget everything, just remember, in order for him to be on my back, chest to spine. In order for me to escape, break that. Get your chest off their spine, okay? Or vice versa, get my back off their chest. So again, as soon as my shoulders are on the mat, I'm done. But we're working on what is the common follow-up for the person on the back, that being coming up on top. All right, so I'll go through one more time in slow motion from this side, and then I'll show it from a couple angles. So I'm grabbing this arm with a frame and a hook grip, feet close to my bottom, I bridge into him, and I create a frame with my head to break his posture. My head and shoulders go to the mat, I pop my shoulder out. As I start to scrape, I want to make sure my hips are up nice and high. I'm controlling this lever to his shoulder, and I'm controlling this lever to his hip. Remember, jiu-jitsu is just a game of frames and levers. That's all I'm trying to use. So now, as I start to walk, I'm opening up this hook here, allowing my hips to come to the mat. Person on top, I want you to try to come up on top of your opponent. Go slow to give them a chance to actually get to a guard position. And again, remember, at this point, it's like a race. Who's gonna come up on top first? He has the advantage because he's already on top of my body, okay? So I wanna make sure that as I'm coming out here, he's coming up on top. I could insert butterfly hooks or just go right into our half guard and we're done. Okay, so let's go ahead and rotate. I'll just do it from head on here so that way you guys can see what it may look like from the front. So controlling, elbows in, 1, 2, start scraping, making sure I'm heavy on this arm. He's coming up, just feed it, and come right to the half guard to finish. All right, let's do it from another perspective. We'll do it from the back, that way you guys can see a little bit more of what my head is doing. So of course, control this arm, don't get choked out first. As I'm scraping, he's gonna start coming up on top, just feed right to half guard. Notice how Coach Seth had trouble getting that arm out from underneath me? that's perfect, right? If he's able to easily get that arm out, it's going to be easier for him to come up. So you notice how I was really laying heavy on this arm, making it very difficult for him to extract it. Again, I'm just trying to control that lever to his shoulder and make it as hard as possible for my opponent to come up on top of me, okay? So this is our most basic back escape. This is utilizing the ground to scrape them off of our back and come up on top. All right, guys, we're going to work on this escape, but we're going to talk about a couple of extra details we can throw in, but this is going to be our primary technique for tonight. Does anybody have any questions? Would anyone like to see it again? All right, guys, let's take turns. 1, 2. Here we go. All right. So this is looking good, guys. We're having a lot of good questions. And remember, questions are just areas where we're having difficulty, and we want to be able to bring those questions to the forefront. So coach is on my back. So we've addressed a couple things already tonight. We've addressed making sure that we're creating a good frame and hook to clear and get this shoulder out from in between. We've talked about trying to get our head underneath theirs and beat them to that punch. Some groups were asking, well, what if we don't? What if we fall to the underhook and their head is underneath ours? Well, it's not over. I can still look to just circle my head and try to get my head to the mat. However, we're going to need something to help us rotate our body a little bit more effectively, and that's where leg pummeling is going to come into play. So leg pummeling is not necessarily a technique that you'll explicitly learn. It's more of something you just kind of pick up over time, but I want to explicitly teach you guys what leg pummeling is, because it's actually very important for escaping the back mount. It's just not something that you'll often hear about, because it's not super like cool and like, wow, look at that. Leg pummeling is essentially just understanding how to use my legs to get his feet off of me to make it easier to rotate my body within his legs. Okay, so if you were having trouble rotating and getting your chest up to the sky, this is going to be an excellent thing to learn how to utilize. Okay, so here's the problem. Let's say everything's good. You know, I'm following all these key details. I'm creating the frame. I'm bridging back into him. I'm going to the underhook side. I'm getting that shoulder free. But his hooks are just really, really strong, okay? And it's really difficult for me to, if we rotate a little bit, it's really difficult for me to start getting this hook off by just walking towards it and moving my hips. And I hope that when you were doing the warm-up drill, you noticed that it's not as easy as just rotating your body. We might need to have a little bit of backup. So leg pummeling is where I utilize my legs to start pushing those feet off, okay? And again, this isn't something that you'll generally be taught. It's just something that you'll kind of pick up and just do as you go along, but I want to talk about it real quick here. So once I'm in this position, the person on the back is going to maintain some pretty solid hooks. I need to get this bottom hook off of me so that I can turn my hips up to the sky. So if I can't do that, I'm going to take my top foot, I'm just going to step on that hook, and I'm going to start pushing it down as I straighten that leg. And now I immediately get my hips through and start turning them up to the sky. Okay, so this is our basic one. I'm going to bring my top leg over, start stepping on that bottom hook, and then immediately get my hips pointed back up to the sky, right? Again, I should be laying on the leg to make it difficult for him to bring that hook back up on top. All right, this is one option. This is what I recommend for pretty much everybody, because this is very easy, okay? Again, I'm just taking the top foot and just stepping on his bottom foot. However, you can get pretty tricky with this type of stuff, guys. And depending on your flexibility and your comfort with doing this, you could even utilize the top hook to start hooking underneath the top ankle and start keeping the lever control here on the top side, okay? This is something that I use occasionally with my weird stick figure legs. So you could try using this, where again, instead of pushing down on this hook, maybe it's just really tight, maybe I can't get it. I'll actually come from the inside and hook the top leg and start lifting up that top leg here and getting my shoulders to the mat that way instead, okay? So I want you guys to just play around with leg pummeling for this next round. We're still going to hit the same escape, but just play around with how to use your legs to push their legs off. You can, if you're going against someone who's not as experienced than you, you can literally escape the back mount just by using your legs, you know, without having to like pull their arms and do all this sort of stuff. That's a challenge that you can try using when we come and do our drills here in a second. So again, he's on my back. So let's remember all these key details, guys. Good frames. I pick the side. I dictate where we go. I don't want him to. So I bridge into him. I'm going to the underhook side. I got my shoulders on the mat. Everything's good, but I got to get this bottom hook. So I can start leg pummeling, top leg can come over, stepping, getting my hips up, or I could try utilizing the top hook, step over, kicking him off of me, making it very easy to start getting my hips back to the floor, okay? So play around with this a little bit, guys, on top of all the other details that we've talked about tonight. Does anybody have any questions on this leg pummeling? Yeah.
So after your leg pummel, looks like you're not getting ready for half guard anymore. You're just trying to turn into them.
That can very well happen, right? If I do really good leg pummeling, maybe it will enable me to get on top of him much easier, right? So if I step this down, it might enable me to do this, where I'm able to just come right up on top, which, again, best case scenario, man. I escape the back and I'm on top of him. Chef's kiss, babe, you know what I mean? Okay? So yeah, this can absolutely lead to something like this, where because I was really good with my leg pummeling, he was not able to come on top, and I was able to take advantage of that and come on top of him. So again, play around with this, guys. You're just gonna kind of get used to using these legs, but never reach down with your hands to grab the feet, because you're just giving up your neck and you're gonna get choked. Ready, 1, 2. Last round, and then we'll drill, guys. So this particular escape, we consider this the underhook escape because I'm going to the underhook side. We can still do this. This is still a valid escape from the overhook side as well. It's just that we need to do some slight modifications. It's a little bit more tricky to do it, but it's still perfectly valid. And we'll actually talk about the overhook side escape on Thursday, and we'll actually do some more leg pummeling techniques on Thursday as well. So all in all, guys, the underhook side escape, this is like the best escape that we can use from the back mount. It's very easy, it's very simple, and it's low risk. A quick note that I wanted to mention, because we're gonna get into drilling here. At no point when I'm trying to escape from the back mount should my hands ever touch the ground, okay? And this is something you may not have thought about. If Coach Stetson is on my back here, at no point when I'm trying to get this guy off of me should I ever do this. Number one, I'm not protecting my neck. Number two, you're moving away from him, allowing him to just follow your back. Remember, I'm trying to get my back on the ground. I don't want to get my back up to the sky, because he's just gonna follow me. Worst case scenario, flatten me out, and now you're in the worst position, the belly down back mount, and he's gonna choke you and you're not gonna get out, okay? So just keep it simple. Never let your hands touch the ground. Always keep your hands on them in some way, okay? Either on their arm, or when you've already started to escape, on the leg, creating that frame to prevent them from coming up, okay?